And now, ladies and gentlemen, live and direct from the Open Face Sandwich Club, may I present the one and only Eddie Mack.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You know, this album is being done in Vancouver, British Columbia. And this is the second time I've been in Vancouver. The first time was 6 years ago. That's when I met Bob Smith. And I checked into the Vancouver hotel, and we show people have superstitions and idiosyncrasies, and one of mine is to open the top drawer of the dresser in every hotel I'm in. And I did at the Vancouver hotel. And I found what I always found in all the hotels, and that was a copy of the Gideon Bible. Well, last September I came back to Vancouver, checked into the same hotel room, and I opened the top drawer of the same dresser, and I was surprised to find how modern Vancouver had become, because there in the middle of the dresser drawer, in place of the Gideon Bible, was a copy of The Happy Hooker. And to find the best hotels today where rent is cheap and life is gay always features service with a smile. A staff that's courteous and discreet, no house detectives with flat feet are there to bother you or cramp your style. However, you should always watch your step. That is, if you care about your rep. Now, you may fool the doorman, the bellhops, and the floorman, but you can't fool the boys behind the desk. And though the manager may greet you, say, I'm awfully glad to meet you, you can't fool the boys behind the desk. Why, those fellows have you spotted when they first hand you the key. You may yawn, pretend you're sleepy, act as tired as can be, but they know damn well you've got a date with some bag in 603. No, you can't fool the boys behind the desk. Now, a couple married 50 years checked into a hotel. When they were shown the bridal suite, the husband said, oh, hell. Why, man, we've been married 50 years. I told you in advance. Said the clerk, I could put you in a ballroom, but you wouldn't have to dance. A fellow in the Hotel Lincoln had a girl up in his suite. When the room clerk called him, he got whiter than a sheet. Have you a woman in your room? He answered yes and shook with fear. The clerk said, that's okay, pal. The boys down here were betting you were queer. Two old maids phoned the desk clerk and raised an awful fuss. They said there's a naked man posing right across the court from us. The clerk said, I can't see a thing. Are you sure girls aren't drunk? They said, can't see a thing. Well, you climb up on top of that trunk. You can fool some of the people some of the time. A guy like me all the time, but you can't fool the boys behind the desk. But the best one is about the girl who phoned the other day. She said, I've got a leak in the bathtub. Please do something right away. The clerk said, go ahead, lady. No one's looking. It's okay. You can't fool the boys behind the desk. See, I told you it was satire. It can happen to everyone. And we all have to make a living, and the reason I'm making this album is for a living, too. And there has to be a reason. So I always explain it in this manner. Though there are people who live by their wits, it's better than taking and washing. To hell with the morals, a suite at the Ritz is much better than taking and washing. Though you're supported by gambling and vice, and though you do things not regarded as nice, sin isn't bad, not if you get your price, and it's better than taking and washing. Now, I know a girl who is kept in a flat. It's better than taking and washing. And each night her hat rack holds a different hat. It's better than taking and washing. Who gives a damn if she's giddy or gay? Virtue is fine, but virtue don't pay. And gals have to get by in some other way, and it's better than taking and washing. Now, Madame du Barry wrote home to her kin, it's better than taking and washing. And even the wives of King Henry gave in. It's better than taking and washing. Adam and Eve had a permanent break. Adam told Eve to go jump in the lake. So Eve bit the apple and said to the snake, it's much better than taking and washing. Now, I make my living the screw your way. If not, I'd be taking and washing, singing all night and then sleeping all day. It's better than taking and washing. Though I sing songs that are naughty, it's true. And though you may blush at a lyric or two, kindly remember from my point of view that it's better than taking and washing. Thank you very much. We all have memories of things gone by, beautiful memories, sad memories, memories we don't want to remember. But the thing that comes foremost in my mind on a night like this, with wonderful people and wonderful friends around here, is the reminiscing of memories. When day is done and shadows fall, I sit alone and I recall the sweethearts that I've loved in days of yore. I seem to see them in the gloom. Their faces haunt my lonely room to bring me long forgotten memories. Oh, I still see the smiles and the cute little wiles of the girls I've loved and lost. A gay summer's day and a game of croquet with the girls I've loved and lost. Oh, they had bright eyes, but they knew how to weaken. Their best friend was Mother and Lydia Pinkham. Oh, I'd still take a chance and I still feel romance for the girls I have loved and lost. There was Anne, a belle, adorable, cute and shy. The light of love lay deep in her one good eye. I held her tight and said, "You're like a frightened woodland fawn." But how the hell was I to know her chastity was gone? And from sweet young Sue for kisses I'd madly beg, until I knew she had a wooden leg. One night we sat together at Coney Island by the sea, and I got 7 splinters where no splinters ought to be. And there was Mabel, who was smarter than a whip. Did we have fun? Say Mabel was a pip. She always wore silk undies, those woolies she despised. So I never got the chance to pull the wool over her eyes. And there was Gracie, who made good in Hollywood. At outdoor sports, this little girl was good. She had a lot in common with her little red canoe. Yes, both had scraped their bottom on the beach at Malibu. Oh, I'd still feel a romance and I'd still take a chance for the girls I have loved and lost. But the best one was Gracie. Now, Gracie worked for Macy, selling hose and lingerie to stenographers and chorus girls, but found it didn't pay. Besides that, little Gracie's heart was hungry for romance. But knights in shining armor don't come buying rayon pants, or do they? There are 3 sexes, you know, the male, the female, and the convertible. She made $18 weekly, just enough to keep alive, with no prospect for security until she reached 65. But Gracie couldn't see much sense in paying dough to Uncle Sam, because she knew when she got that old, she wouldn't give a damn. Then she met the swellest guy she'd ever hoped to meet, a handsome young photographer who swept her off her feet. Now, instead of selling panties and bergères to big fat aunties, Gracie's posing in her scanties, but she's socially secure. She's making lots of money just for taking off her clothes. For Gracie is a honey dressed in just her these and those. Now Gracie spends her working hours stepping in and out of showers doing ads for Johnny Powers. She's socially secure. She's advertised most everything from Lux to Listerine. If nothing else, you must admit the girl is keeping clean. Sometimes she finds his picture-taking business rather crude. Why, once she posed for Cannon towels completely in the nude. She's been photographed and mounted. She's been even passepartout. But what the hell, she's socially secure. Then Gracie went to Hollywood because she always understood when a girl out there makes good, she's socially secure. She got herself an agent, an enterprising dub, whose office was the men's room of the Trocadero Club. She's met a lot of grouches who sat on casting couches, because the guys out there aren't slouches. She's socially secure. She's been tested and retested everywhere without a doubt. Why, Donald Duck's the only guy who hasn't tried her out. But since she's been in Hollywood, she's learned a thing or two. She's even bought herself a cottage on the beach at Malibu, just for laying around weekends when there's nothing else to do. But what the hell, she's socially secure. Although she's full of him and vigor, still she has to watch her figure or her assets will get bigger. She's socially secure. When Gracie gives a party, it's nearly always a success. The men all love to go because they never have to dress. Although she's never had top billing, still she thinks her work is thrilling, and God knows the girl is willing. She's socially secure. Her first picture's Queen Elizabeth, that famous virgin queen. And if she can play a virgin, she's some actress, what I mean. But Gracie's gonna be a hit in pictures, it appears. She'll surely lay those critics in the aisle, so calm your fears. For her it should be easy, she's been doing it for years. But what the hell, she's socially secure. Do something else. The Scots have a terrific sense of humor. So have the Irish, and so have the English. And it's great to know the one thing from the very moment that you're born, that your parents are your parents. Nowadays, you can hardly tell. But this Scotsman got his girlfriend in the family way, and he wouldn't marry her. So she took him up before the magistrate, and the magistrate said, "You're not going to marry the last Sandy." Sandy says, "That I'm not." Well, the magistrate said, "You bloody booger, when the wee bairn is born, you're going to pay for its bloody keep." So sure enough, when the wee bairn was born, it was a wee laddie, and faithfully every week Sandy sent the keep to the mither, and when the wee bairn was old enough to visit the father, would leave on a Friday night, spend the weekend with the father, and come back Monday morning with a keep in its little mitt. This went on for 18 years. On his 18th birthday, he went to his father and he said, "Father, do you know what day this is?" The father said, "Aye, laddie, it's your 18th birthday and I've got a surprise for you, lad. I'm not going to pay your bloody keep anymore, and go home to your mother and tell her, and look at the bloody expression on her bloody face." So the kid, broken-hearted, went home to his mother and he said, "Mother, I've just left my father," and he said, "He's not going to pay my bloody keep anymore, and to look at the bloody expression on your bloody face." His mother said, "Son, get back to your father and tell him he's not your father, and look at the bloody expression on his face." It's a long way to get into the next song. But as I said, the Irish have a delightful sense of humor. And there's one man in the house that knows this particular era, because the first giveaway program on radio was sponsored by Old Gold Cigarettes, and the name of the show was Treasure Chest. And the sponsor, as I said, was Old Gold Cigarettes. And the band leader was the master of ceremonies. His name was Horace Height. And this night, this Irish widow who had been supporting her boy through college by scrubbing floors hit the jackpot for $5,000, and she couldn't believe it. When Horace handed her the $5,000 check, she said, "All me life, the thing that I've always wanted and never could afford was a fur coat, and I've got the wherewithal to get it now." So the next day she was walking downtown, and she had the $5,000 clutched in her hand, and who come driving along in his brand new Cadillac but Father Murphy? And he pushed the button down on the driver's side. The window slid down the other side, and he shouted out, "Would you be after having a ride downtown, Maggie?" She said, "Don't mind if I do, Father." So she got in the Cadillac, and they're driving into town. Halfway into town, out of a clear blue sky, the father said, "By the way, Maggie, I was listening to the radio last night, and I heard where you hit the jackpot in the quiz program for $5,000. She said, "That I did, Father, that I did." He said, "Of course now you're going to give it to the church." She says, "That I'm not. That I'm not." He said, "Well, why not?" "Father," she said, "all these years I've been scrubbing floors to put me by through college, and I still kept out enough now to give to you a Sunday. But the thing I've always wanted and never could afford was a fur coat, and I've got the wherewithal to get it now." The father said, "Maggie, would you be after thinking that the Virgin Mary went around wearing a fur coat?" She said, "No, Father, and Jesus Christ didn't drive around in a Cadillac either." That's a long way to get into a story about the English. And we all have superstitions that I told you the first part of this album. Show people. I've had two mascots that are mythical that have followed me ever since I cut my first picture on Long Island at the age of 4.5 years of age. The names of my mascots from jolly old England: Lord Stickit and Lord Stuffit. Lord T. Burlingbrook Wickingham Stuffit was a gay, debonair old roué. Now Stuffit could bluff it and frequently cuff it. He lived by his wits day to day. He stopped at the Waldorf Astoria. He lived in the lobby, you see. Now the atmosphere there was so nice and refined that he called it service the best of its kind. And besides that, the house stick was practically blind. Oh, he was a gay old roué. Now Lord Stuffit's best friend was Lord Stickit, an Englishman right out of Punch. Though Stuffit and Stickit would sit and talk cricket while someone else paid for the lunch. They lived on their charm and their credit, though at times both would wear mighty thin. They were known round Manhattan as two gay old drunks, but they were as wily as medieval monks. When invited to dinner, they'd both bring their trunks. Oh, they were two gay old roué. Oh, they both had a crush on Miss Muffet, who danced in a show on Broadway. Though Stickit and Stuffit had tried to make Muffet, her answer was always, nay, nay. Then Stuffit decided to bluff it and promised the girl a fur coat. Well, the next morning early when he left her flat, Lord Stuffit pulled two rabbits out of his hat, saying, just give them time, they'll make fur coats like that. Oh, he was too gay old roué. Now when Stickit found out about Stuffit and learned how he'd been double-crossed, Stickit told Stuffit to lay off Miss Muffet. His manner was colder than frost. Then Stuffit said, go Stuffit Tuffit. After all, old boy, I saw her first. You'll have to admit I've been fair as can be. You've had her to dinner, to luncheon, to tea. Can I help it if she prefers breakfast with me? Because I'm a gay old roué. And that's how our friendship was broken. A woman, the cause of it all. Since then, not a word has been spoken, and neither has bothered to call. Now Stuffit sits at the Waldorf, while Stickit sits at the Pierre, while Muffet's on Broadway still shaking her hips for $17.50 and very few tips, while I go to bed with goodbye, Mr. Chips. I wish I were a gay old roué. Thank you very much. In case you haven't guessed it, this is side number 2. I'm very, very happy at the moment. And I think everybody should be. They should get married once in a while. But I still think the most horrible music that was ever written was written by Lohengrin when he wrote this musical hunk of garbage. In Massachusetts, you pay $3 for a marriage license, and you wait until June and Sunday. And you hope the sun is shining, and so you get married. Monday morning, you're not only physically tired, but you find with that $3 marriage license, you not only have a lot of blasted relatives that you can do very well without, but you find that you've got a rope around your neck for the rest of your natural life. The one wedding that I remember so very vividly is the one in which I myself was the principal belligerent. The one in which the bride stood at the altar on a little twitter, triumphant little glitter in her eye. The groom looked at the deacon something bitter and would like to step into a kimono and have a nice long cry. The choir was softly singing, "Oh, promise me," off key. The bride's old man was humming, "What will the harvest be?" The bridesmaids all were twittering in their lavender and lace. The flower girl, age 6, was the only virgin in the place. The parson's face was thoughtful. He was wondering about his fee. Who'll give this woman to this man? Who'll give away the bride? Said he. But no one gave the bride away. On that lovely summer's day, they wouldn't say that she appeared in all the hometown plays, that she had played a leading role in many a matinee. Do you like matinees? I do. The best man thought the whole thing quite sublime, for he had been the best man all the time. And no one else would whisper to the pomp and solemn pastor that she had done a lot of things to make a slow town faster, that she was the gal they sing about who lost it at the Astor, but no one gave the bride away. Her father's lawyer was discreet, of course he wouldn't tell. Neither would the house stick at that Mountain View hotel, of weekend excursions and a score of escapades, that she was the other woman in a half a dozen raids. The milkman and the baker were as silent as could be. She'd meet them both at the break of dawn, but they both kept it QT. But the guy who ran the tourist cabins down at Briar Creek knew she had the same old luggage, but a new guy every week. The groom looked very naive as he stood there by her side. After all, he was the only one in town who hadn't did the bride, but no one gave the bride away. The village doctor wouldn't even say that she had passed her physical with 87 points, but almost every evening she'd get stiff in all the joints. The ushers never spoke a word. No, they wouldn't say what they had heard. She loved to go on voyages. She thought them quite sublime. Each time she saw a steamer, why, her eyes would really shine. She was known as Stateroom Annie on the Boston-New York line, but no one gave the bride away. My father's one ambition was that I become a man, and military training was the answer to that plan. Well, Mother had an Uncle Gus whose best friend was a guy whose girlfriend knew a congressman who fixed it so that I found myself in uniform, brass buttons, braid, and all, as an usher on the night shift at the Roxy Music Hall. Now I'm up in the second mezzanine. It's the darndest place you've ever seen. The management spends thousands on a super show, but you should see what's going on in almost every row. Up in the second mezzanine, they don't even bother looking at the screen. Say we have big comfy armchairs there instead of hardwood seats, where you can watch a stage show full of acrobatic feats. But if you ask me, they ought to pass out blankets and clean sheets. Up in the second mezzanine, yes, I'm up in the second mezzanine. A fella really has to use his bean. I used to answer 1,500 questions every night. Now I just take a look and say it's 2 doors to the right. Up in the second mezzanine, we try to keep you happy and serene. Now, ladies, if you don't like the overture the band's about to play, you'll find the ladies' lounge a most delightful place to stay. And those things don't cost a dime like at the Astor on Broadway. Up in the second mezzanine, yes, I'm up in the second mezzanine. They've got me there to keep the party clean. It doesn't pay to make mistakes up there, so goodness knows. Last night I turned my flashlight on and got punched in the nose. Up in the second mezzanine, why, a lot goes on that's better left unseen. Say you'd be surprised how many girls I know who've gone astray because their folks won't let them stay at home to pet and play. So trying to get out of the way of the family, they get in the family way. Up in the second mezzanine. I learned a lot in the theaters, especially in the second mezzanine. And as I said earlier in the program, there are 3 sexes, the male, the female, and the convertible. And believe it or not, it applies to animals. Because on the 14th floor of a walk-up flat, I used to keep an alley cat. Each night I'd walk him down the stairs and wait till he got the air. He grew up fast, developed a yin, though soon he was in, he was out again, fast cat. I hated to spoil his fun, but I knew it must be done, so I called the cat and he staggered home with ragged ear and broken dome. But I knew he felt like hell that day, so I said to him this way: is it worth it for that momentary something to yowl around to neighbors call a cop? Is it worth it for that momentary something to have 900 kittens call you pop? You've been an awful wildcat. You should welcome a vacation just to sit around and brood and think about your operation. Well, I'll give you one more night out to complete your education, then the sheltered life is good enough for you. Well, I took him to the vet and had his profile bobbed. And when he sat down, he said, hell, I've been robbed. He went out last night, but he came right home to bed, and the look on his face was a scream as he said, well, you've done it. Now my operation's over. I'll never be the same. I feel so strange. But you've done it. Now my operation's over. No longer will I take chances with a mage. I had so many wives, I didn't know where I was at. But since my change of scenery, all the girl cats holler scat. As I pass by, I hear them cry, there goes that pansy cat. But the sheltered life is good enough for me. We didn't do so well in Baghdad, but maybe we can do better in India. Far away in old Bombay, there's a fellow whom they say has to beat off women with a club. He's a fortune-telling whiz, smarter than Professor Quiz. Compared to this guy, Einstein was a dub. He doesn't read tea leaves or palms. He works with more finesse. The Swami's got a crystal ball, and that's the secret of his success. The Swami charges double rates whenever he prognosticates, but after all, he's got a crystal ball. The women stand outside his door, and when he's through, they yell for more. How they go for the Swami's crystal ball. As a fortune-telling Romeo, this fellow is a whiz. He'll tell you fortune Tuesday, and by Saturday, it's his. Husbands look at him and sigh, there's no competing with that guy. That Hindu faking, money-making man with a crystal ball. A famous Maharaja came to him to prophesy, but now the Maharaja's got a wild look in his eye. The Swami hardly swarmed at all, yet all around Bombay they're saying that the Raja's wives are knitting night and day. He once went tiger hunting with a famous Indian prince. When the tiger charged him, the Swami didn't wince. The prince said, you're the bravest man I've seen in all my life. Said the Swami, what's the tiger, princey? You should meet my wife. He once went tiger hunting with a famous Indian prince. And he's India's Walter Winchell. He predicts all sorts of things, like who is doing who and who is buying wedding rings. At Blessed Event Forecasting, gee, the Swami is a whiz. But hell, he ought to know the dates, 'cause all the kids are his. With a turban wrapped around his skull, he'll find the women far from dull, but after all, he's got a crystal ball. He tells them that a tall, dark man is coming in their lives. And sometimes he's not kidding, say he's had 1,000 wives. Now if that ball should ever break, what would he do? Well, he's got two more that are damn near new. Then if they're selling, fortune-telling, man with a crystal ball. Hey! Not mentioning any names, but I think Harry the horse is in the house tonight. And all I've got to say to you, Harry, is, brother, you sit there with your head up. You know you've been burning the candle at both ends. Both ends. But someday you'll find your head too hard to get up. So don't forget this moral, my friend. It's not the gray hair that makes a man old, or the faraway look in his eye, I'm told. When the mind makes a contract that the body can't fulfill, then you're over the hill, brother, over the hill.
Thanks, pal.
When you look at a Venus and just see her eyes, and a naked striptease dancer doesn't give you a rise. When you spend your nights peeping and your bed is just for sleeping, hell, you ain't ill. You're over the hill. You try to fill your wife with a weak point of view when it's something much more solid that she wants. She asks for encores, but you know you can't come through. Mister, you're no longer king, 'cause you ain't got that thing. When life has lost its reason and your grass has lost its green, there are so many shots in an old magazine. When you've fired your last shell and getting your rifle up is hell, then you're over the hill, brother, over the hill. This is my story, alas and alack. When you squeeze out the toothpaste, you can't put it back. If you wanna make whoopee, don't wait until you're over the hill, brother, over the hill. It's awfully nice of you to admit your failings, Harry. But we all have complaints, and most complaints nowadays are received by politicians. But this complaint was unique due to the fact it was received in the form of a letter to Mr. Woolworth of Woolworth's 5 and 10 cent store from a French Canadian, if you want to be nice about the whole darn thing, but from a French Canuck if you want to be brutally frank about the whole business. Now, it seemed that the French Canuck's wife was doing some spring cleaning and she decided to do some painting. So she bought a can of paint at Woolworth's for 10 cents. It was no good. So the French Canuck was quite put out at the fact he lost 10 cents in the deal. So he wrote Mr. Woolworth a letter of complaint and went something like this. Mr. Woolworth, I have complaint about one can 10-cent paint. And by gosh, I'm good and sore, my wife says buy off your damn store. They say last week spring she's come. And everything is on the bum, the walls, the floors, the windows, too, is dirt like hell, sacré mon Dieu. My wife is clean and she's neat, so she buy some paint for toilet seat. For 3 whole days we watch with high, but that damn paint, she don't get dry. My wife ain't small, she's kinda fat, now you can see just where she sat. She's got big ring around complete where she sat down on toilet seat. My daughter too got ring around on the seat. She too sat down for 1 whole week. We watch and wait. But Christ, we all get constipated. Every time I see those paint, I get so mad I almost faint. But gosh, I don't know what to do. You gotta eat and some come through. My wife and sister named Marie who live all time in house with me. Last night I looked where she sat down, but gosh, she too got ring around. I tried to wipe with turpentine, she howl like wolf, she lose her mind, I'm scared like elf. Of the day the skin come off, the paint shall stay. Mr. Woolworth, I ask you, what the hell we gonna do? How can house be nice and neat, the paint don't dry on toilet seat? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.